Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Matt Hume and we're back up here in Appleton, New York today. Wanted to share with you some of our progress on this project. It's another beautiful day up here on Lake Ontario, and last week we were hard at work getting the digging complete and getting our site prep done and ready for Superior Walls to show up on Friday and install the wall systems. So you can kind of see behind me here, we have our Superior Walls XI system installed, and this is a really great system. We've talked about it a little bit in some of our past videos, but it's really great because they come in here after we've done our site prep. We put some nice type 1A stone as a base underneath the walls. They show up and then they basically install this entire system in about a day. That saves us a ton of time here on the site. It lets us really get to work a lot faster. And that's probably one of my favorite aspects of working with Superior Walls. Apart from the quality, we have had really good luck working with them. The overall quality, everything when they're done is perfectly level. It's square. It just provides a really great base for us to be able to start framing on top of. And like I said, this is the XI wall system. So you can't really see it from here, but in between the wall studs, there's some insulation. It actually looks like concrete now, the way that they've kind of redesigned it. But that's not actually concrete between the studs that you can see back behind me here. That's actual insulation. Now this is an R13 panel, so that meets minimum code requirement, but they now make a XI Plus system that we'll have in some other houses in the future, which takes that R value to much higher levels. We're talking like an R30 or 40 for your basement, which is pretty incredible. But you can kind of see here, we talked about this house design a little bit in our previous video. When you look at the way the house is situated right now, it's situated, oriented towards this corner, about where our machine is right now. If you look past the machine, you can see that beautiful view of Lake Ontario. It's kind of like a 45-degree angle on the site that the main house is situated at. This is kind of nice because for a couple reasons. We're getting a good shot or view or orientation of the water, but we're also not obstructing any of the other neighbors' views. We're being good neighbors. The house is a little narrower in that dimension. So our neighbor Gary right here, he still has an unobstructed view. And then our neighbor Don behind us here, he still has an unobstructed view. We're not really affecting any of the neighbors, which is awesome. You'll notice the main house is here, and then detached from that is the garage portion. So this portion right here is where the garage will sit. This is about a 25 by 25 footprint. They will technically be connected. So between the house and the garage, the roof over top will actually connect to the main house. And so this in-between zone right here will actually be a covered portico or walkway between the garage and the house. And we'll have some really big, beautiful exposed timbers that sort of structure that entire space between the two. Looking at the garage foundation, this is their FB wall. So this is their basic foundation for a garage. This also comes pre-insulated, so you can kind of see the studs and the sort of darker black insulation in between. This keeps frost from being able to migrate underneath your concrete slab from the exterior, which is great. So at this point right now, we're to the point now where we will backfill this with some clean stone and tamp that down just about level with the bottom of the garage floor, which is this level right here. So that level right there represents the bottom of our garage slab. And then on top of that, we will have our wall system that gets placed on these stem walls. They call these stem walls right here. So we'll bolt down our walls to that, and then on top of that, we'll frame our roof, which will in turn connect back to the main house. Sort of going back to the main area here, we'll take a walk over here real quick, Shawn. Again, we really like this system because, you know, unlike other foundation systems where you put the foundation in and then you have to do some sort of extra things to waterproof it on the exterior, and then you usually will have to like insulate, you know, via some method on the inside, and then build actual wall studs into it. These are nice because everything's done. The concrete that they use is a really high PSI and waterproof. So the system's waterproof to begin with. The studs are metal studs that are actually integrated or built into the precast walls, but they're isolated by the insulation, so you don't get that thermal transmittance through, which is nice. But what's great is the studs also have little knockouts on it, in them, which I'll show you later, where you can actually run electric infrastructure through them, and then you can basically go ahead and you could further insulate these by filling the wall cavities with more insulation if you wanted to, or you can just go ahead and apply drywall and finish this basement right now. If we take a closer look, come on over here, Shawn, might be able to get a good look. So if you kind of take a look from this perspective, you can kind of see down in the base of the building, we have some larger footings. That's actually where we have structure, big columns coming down and being structured by those footings. In our set of drawings, we specified the size of those footings. But what's really awesome about Superior is they came with those precast footings, and they actually pulled the stone back a little bit, leveled them to the exact level they needed to be, so they're just underneath our concrete slab. But those will provide our support for our main beams that are coming down either side of the stairway that exists right there. So the last thing I wanted to discuss was the C-step. So this is a precast basement egress stair. They have different sizes of these. They have C steps, D steps, B steps. It all just, the letter indicates the size. This is basically a precast unit that comes, you can see they have a footing down at the bottom here. That gets installed, craned into location. This is great because we can backfill right to it. And then actually our Bilco door system will go right over the top of that, and it's ready to go. So like I said, this all happens within about a day. There's a little bit of prep work to be done. I mean, obviously we have to get here ahead of time, a few days ahead of time, and do all of our excavations, make sure our elevations are exactly where they need to be. You can't really see it from here because of the stone, but we actually have drain tiles that run throughout the base of the stone. And then we have to get the stone delivered, and we have to get that stone perfectly level. So that's quite a bit of work. We show up a few days in advance of Superior Walls just to do the prep work for them. And one of the biggest things that I always get questioned about, or people are surprised by, is the fact that Superior Wall foundation systems don't have a footer. Most people are used to the conventional footing system, where you have a footer first, and then you pour your walls or place your walls on top of a footer. The spread footers kind of give you more square footage that you're applying your loads to. This system's kind of unique because it doesn't require it. We use limestone, crushed limestone, and in this case, this is crushed type 1A limestone. And crushed limestone's nice because as a base, when you set something on it, it has a tendency, because of the way it's crushed and the way it fractures, they kind of lock together when you actually apply pressure to them. And when they lock together and they have weight being applied to them by a wall, that force actually distributes in like a triangle shape. So the deeper you go with your stone, the more the load from your wall will spread out in like a bell shape. Their minimum requirement is 6 inches of stone. In this case, I went with 10 to 12 inches of stone, just because I like the extra depth of stone for additional drainage. This stone base, because it's clean stone, is gonna really, bring water from the edges of the building and give it a space to run underneath the building and over to your sump crock, which exists over in this corner. You can't really see it right now. But But yeah, it provides the footing for the walls, a nice level footing, and it provides that drainage base. And then if you're in an area where radon is a major concern, this clean stone is nice to have underneath your building as well. Once we get into framing of this building, we'll actually start our radon testing processes. If there's any present radon in the building, that's the point at which we'll design a negative air pressure system. And this stone works perfectly for that. It pulls air right through it, and you can expel that radon right out through the house. But if we know that there's some radon present, before we're done building, we can actually plan for that and get some of the ducting up from the basement up. And that basically just looks like a 4 to 6 inch pipe that will be kind of placed underneath and in this stone bed. And then there's a fan that just sort of draws a negative air pressure underneath the building and underneath that stone base. It takes that air and kind of expels it out, so it's not sort of pushing up into the space of the house. Another thing that I should probably mention is you see these straps that exist here. This is going to be another combined project with us and Timberbuilt. So Timberbuilt's going to be providing the timbers and the SIP panels, the structural insulated panel system. With that, it requires some unique connections because those panel systems are kind of light and they're subjected to more lateral wind loading and stuff like that. So these straps, we specified the locations that they were required based on wind loading. But this is nice because those will flip up and they will fasten right to the side walls of the house. And then we'll actually continue those with additional strapping up to really lock this entire structure to this base. We have some additional details for a moment connection on the front of the building that we'll discuss later. But my point is, in my experience, working with Superior Walls has been really pleasant for me because they can do a lot of custom stuff. There's a lot of custom stuff that they are able to do for us, such as the strapping, the heights of the walls, the footings, and then some of those other details which we'll discuss in later videos about that moment frame. But thank you for coming today. I hope you find these videos, really useful and intuitive and insightful for you to help you better understand the building process. And I look forward to seeing you in our upcoming videos.